Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we are going to be working with a bad hamstring. Now, there is a lot of issues with this hamstring, and what we're going to be doing to start off is we are going to be palpating the area, filling out any of the tension, and judging what we should do based off of what we find. So, going through this tension on the hamstring, I can feel that there is quite a bit of tension on the medial portion, meaning that it's in the inner portion of the leg. And as I palpate further and further along and warm up the tissue, new things will begin to arise. So right here, we can see that there is no longer as much restriction on the medial portion, but rather it's leading into the center of the hamstring. And as we palpate even more, we'll begin to feel things soften, relax, and this will allow us to dig even deeper. So we work slowly, working the inner portion of the leg right there that I mentioned. But again, layers will start to soften, and this will allow us to find more and more tension within the body. As you can see, the inner portion has finally relaxed quite a bit, and you can begin to see how it's banding towards that knee and into that center portion. And right here, it's very prevalent that there is a lot of tension within the hamstring. See, now the medial portion is relaxed, and we begin to notice that there's more and more tension. And so what we do is, after we've identified where that tension is at, we will go ahead and use the heated scraper to go ahead and relax it. The heated scraper does two things. It heats up and acts as if it's a hot stone set, and it brings the heat and melts away some of the tension. While we scrape, also, we are trying to manipulate the hyaluronic acid, HA, which is the liquid that causes densification to occur within the fascia. We're trying to soften that out, because that is how you quote unquote break up fascia. Fascia can withstand quite a bit of pressure, over a ton of pressure. So how does one manipulate it? Well, with the liquid, you can soften it, and this will make that fascia much more palatable, and you'll be able to manipulate it a lot more better. So as we're scraping along here and on the IT band, we traced it from the center of the hamstring all the way out to the lateral portion, which is on the outside. And we're going to continue to trace it all the way along. So on this IT band, we're palpating with the scraper. And, one of the key factors whenever you're working the IT band is to work that TFL. But you can really start to see how the center of the hamstring is pulling over to the outside of the hamstring, and then that is pulling on that IT band. So that's why when you're scraping, you're able to see the visual resistance in the tissue. And right here, you can begin to see some of the lining that's actually pulling over the hamstring. As soon as I put pressure, you begin to see the nodule. And to make sure that the nodule is not going to move and that the tissue is going to give, I apply with my left hand pressure upwards, and then I scrape against it. This will help alleviate any more tension in that area. And so we continue to scrape until we get that area to soften up. And then we can polish, relax the area, and begin to see if we find any more tension. And as you can see, that there was still that pull that was pulling towards that IT band that we found earlier. And so we're going to use heat and scraping to attempt to break it up. After doing that, put the scraper off to the side and begin to do active release, where I'm putting pressure on both the hamstring and the calf. Here's another angle to show. The calf inserts right near where the hamstring ends, and the hamstring crosses over and ends towards the middle of or right underneath the knee. So by working and stretching the area, it allows us to get different areas of contraction, and this will allow us to detail even greater. Now right here, I'm angling the leg, and as I angle the leg, what this will do is this will allow me to find new tensions and new layers of tissue that could find densification and pain. And after we do active motion while also scraping, we can then push in much more deeper into the tissue. And right here, as I'm using my elbow, you can see how it's really pushing into that tissue. And then the same thing, active release, right? So we're going to activate the muscle and let the muscle decide where it feels tension. And if we find any areas of tension, we can hold those areas. Working both up and down to contract, and then also lateral. Now we'll go ahead and go in again and see what we find. Now, as I'm feeling the tension from the hamstring, I'm starting to work in a new group of tension or tissue, and that would be the calf. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the calf and the hamstring tend to cross over, and that crossover can create a lot of tension for the leg in its entirety and actually pull on the hamstring. So that crossover area right behind the knee, where these two muscles tend to do that, can create tension for both, not only the hamstring, but also for the calf as well. So now we're going to go through the same portion where we're polishing through the calf. And while we're polishing through the calf, we're going to put the heated scraper onto the side and allow this heated scraper to warm up. And while it's warming up, and to make sure that everything is good, we are using the 10 to do some precision vibration technique to the hamstring. And while we're doing the precision vibration technique up there, we're also using the other hand to go ahead and work through the calf to palpate and to see if we find any more tension in that area. Now, as you can see, it seems that there is a bit of tension in the center of the calf. But just to make sure, again, we're going to check that hamstring, fill it out, and then scrape. Queuing up and warming up the calf, so that way as soon as we finish up here on this last portion of the hamstring, that we can go straight back in and start warming up that calf. And in that center, it seems that's where there's a lot of tension. So by using this heated scraper, we're both applying, again, heat, and we're able to scrape out a lot of that tension in the area, which can help alleviate adhesions, increase range of motion, and help relax the global tension of the hamstring that we've been working on. Working upwards, finally going to get up to the insertion point, which is right where I'm working at now. I'm trying to work on both of those fibers. The insertion point of the calf, and then the origin point of the calf, and the insertion point for the hamstring. And now you can hear that crossover area begins to have some audible cues. And our goal is to work in those areas until we hear some of the densification begin to dwindle away. There it goes. And then we readjust. So as densification audible cues begin to dissipate, we then proceed on and continue to trace. Now note is that early on, if we would have tried to attempt to find these densifications, that the layers of tension that was within this hamstring would not have allowed us to. And that's why you're able to hear those cues. And once we've traced out from this side over here, and we hear it nice and there's a little bit of on the calf right there. But as soon as we loosened up this side, we're gonna go ahead and move back over to the other. And we repeat the process to remove densification in both the calf and the hamstring, so that way global tension can be reduced. Man, the crunch is pretty real, and you can actually see right there when I was moving the adhesion, the knot, on how it was pulling right here on the pulp of the tail right here. But again, you hear that audible cue, and it sounds so much better. This lets us know that we are on the right track. Mm-hmm. Now, all that tension that we've relieved in the upper portion of the calf will allow the mid portion of the calf to finally get some alleviation. And it makes it much easier to dig into that center calf. Now this calf is finally beginning to be more pliable. And I'm actually able to move the calf around, and we're going to dig in deeper now into those deeper layers with the elbow. Now the important thing to note is that although I am slightly applying pressure to this elbow, I'm making sure that my forearm is away from my bicep, which will allow the elbow angle to not be as severe If I bring my forearm closer to my elbow, it'll make the sharper elbow, and then it'll get a lot more deeper. So depending on how you angle your elbow will affect the amount of pressure that you are applying. And that's very important to note. In Hawaiian techniques, what they actually do is they will move their forearm to angle the elbow or to angle the bone in the forearm to mimic ocean waves. And by applying those techniques into massage, you can actually get a very good relaxing massage. And as you can hear, the densification by working the calf has reduced the audible cues to nothing. So what do we do now? Myofascial decompression, aka cupping. So what we're doing first is we're doing dynamic cupping. Dynamic cupping is where we move the cup along the muscle and allow the decompression to take place. So again, apply and simply move. You can see right there. You can see that the restriction's right there. But I believe that the next right move is to go ahead and to go into stationary cupping, which I did. So right here, we're going to put these cups on. We're going to trace the tension. So we're following the tension throughout the calf, all the way up into the hamstring, which showcases the global tension and localized tension. So the main root is that last cup, and everything else is outlined so that way we can give the connecting factors relief, just so that way that origination point of pain can be alleviated. While applying cups, you can also use active release techniques. So you just move the leg, and you can see how the tension moves within the body. It can actually help you find the tension pulls a little bit clearer sometimes with the cups. But after 5 minutes, we can go ahead and remove the cups. And another thing to note is look at how healthy the tissue is. There's almost no purple. And the reason why is because there is no restriction to the veins, and the veins, whenever they're constricted, it actually makes bruising much, much easier. So fascia can alleviate a lot of that. And this helps blood circulation and also nutrients to return to the body. We use tucks-in technique to go ahead and relieve any extra tension throughout the body. And this hamstring is on its way to feeling even greater. Now guys, once again, I'm John of GreaterTherapeutics. If you guys like these videos, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. If you want to support, please join our community on YouTube. We really appreciate it. But once again, if you have any concerns, comments, or improvements, please leave it below. Thanks.